In a rapidly expanding omniverse of sci-fi content, two Terrans try to make sense of it all. From the latest to the greatest to the most thought-provoking science fiction content on the screen, we bring you Crowded Space Podcast.
I'm Eric, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, Jarod.
So here we go. We're going to start with Blast from the Past. We're looking at
Disney's Black Hole.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Came out in December of 79. So
79.
This movie's almost as old as I am. Not by much, though.
Yeah. It was. We watched it on Disney Plus. It was on Disney Plus, and let's just say it was interesting. At first, it was a little slow because you know how it is back then. It was more like it was kind of like a genre that just with exploration and like Lost in Space type of stuff back then. Unlike when Star Wars came around and changed all that. But this one was like, oh, we're in space, we're lost, and this is what's going on. So the crew of the USS Palomino stumbles onto
a black hole.
Black hole. Yeah, a black hole. That's what the show's about. But the Cygnus, which is this massive ship that they thought it was lost in space.
Right, and both of the ships, I guess, their missions were to seek out intelligent life or inhabitable places.
Yeah, I think it was like
quite
planets.
Clear the way that they said it. It's like, oh, we're looking for places that are habited or something like that. So you are looking. So like, yeah, it wasn't clear.
Looking for new life,
looking to settle or looking to just explore. But
yeah, I think it probably was the explore part because I mean, if it was to settle, I think it would have been a bigger ship, right? Because I think the Cygnus seemed a little small to be like something to colonize a planet with.
No, the Cygnus was huge.
Not the Cygnus. I mean the Palomino.
Yeah, the Palomino was like what? Yeah, it seems so small in comparison. You guys had the same mission, right? Wow, they really cut your budget.
Yeah, the Cygnus was massive. Yeah,
20 years later, your budget got cut hard, folks. You went from having like a Star Destroyer size ship to your
it made its own food and all that stuff. Like to that 4-compartment ship, if that.
But so they stumble upon the black hole and they're like, oh crap, there's a ship there, and oh, that ship's not being sucked in, and
it's just standing still,
kind of hovering at the edge of the black hole, which is really interesting. So I think based on that alone, that and when they get in closer, they see what they think are
people on board.
So, yeah.
And so they head to it because they never got contacted because they kind of got into problems of their own until they were able to fix it. But then they made it to the ship before being, they didn't want to get sucked in the black hole, so they went to the large ship, and they got on board, and that's when things get a little crazy.
Yeah, speaking of crazy, the captain of the seemingly derelict ship was Dr. Hans Reinhardt, so he kind of has his own agenda, and he's apparently he's the only survivor of.
They have like a big crew of personnel.
That's on the ship, and it's all robots. At least that's what it seems like at first sight. So
I kind of like that. I kind of like the mystery that they had with the.
Robots. For me, the movie was enjoyable to watch, and again. It's hard. I guess one of the things I want to figure out as we're talking about it today is like, did I enjoy it because of just the sci-fi ideas and the story for what it was, or did I enjoy it just because it was like this kind of campy blast from the past? Just interesting to see. Oh, this is how they used to do sci-fi.
Yeah.
This was cutting edge.
Absolutely. I mean,
these are the sorts of stories that they told 40 years ago.
Right.
On a 20... to see what has changed and what hasn't changed.
Right, and on a $20 million budget, too. That was the big thing. I guess that was like the big thing for Disney when Star Wars came out, because I think it was under a Fox label back then. Disney came out with it, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're going to put a lot of money in it, $20 million. And
yeah, so this movie is on the heels 2 years after the success of George Lucas's Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And purportedly Disney's like, hey, sci-fi sells, let's take a shot at it.
Yeah.
Though, based on that article that you sent around, when they crunched the numbers, Black Hole, in terms of return on investment, was just as successful as Star Wars.
Yeah, it got two.
In terms of, in the theater release,
too.
Obviously.
Yeah.
We know that Star Wars is far more
obviously
successful than Black Hole, even though there might be a reboot of it, but whatever.
Really?
Anything's fair game. Come on, anything's fair game for a reboot these days.
I don't know.
They'll reboot.
I think it would be kind of interesting to see a reboot, but
they'll reboot their dead grandma if there's money in it nowadays.
There's money in it.
It's bad.
So don't let anybody know your grandma just passed away.
And then it stinks because then there's Abrams' Star Trek, which is a reboot that's delightful. So I'm like, I can't say all reboots are crap. There are a couple of good ones out there, but for every good reboot, I really feel
there comes a point in time where the people that did, that spearheaded the movies, they're going to be going, like, they're going to be gone. So you can't just be like, all right, some movies deserve to be like, all right, the movie's done because the actor can't do it anymore. Or the actor did too much of a good job, like Back to the Future. I don't want to see any reboots at all of those. Oh. I don't want to see any reboots.
Actually, I think they're in the works to do another one with both Doc
and Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
I hope so, because I like him. But I don't want to see.
I read that a couple of weeks ago, but
yeah, I'd like to see that, but I wouldn't want to see like some actor or actress be like, "Hey, in the new Marty McFly," or whatever. Like, no, I like that, but having, like you said, the Star Treks, like the movies, hey, make it was a different timeline. Why not? Something interesting.
And that's why I'm like, I'll allow it. You guys explained it very well. There's this, change in time that sets it up. I'm like, okay, that's why things are different, and I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
I thought they do.
So to see this rebooted, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I mean, it has some good points.
Yeah, no, they hopefully 40 years later they can figure out a good ending. So, but we'll get to that.
The ending, yeah, we'll get to that.
Ending was just like,
So what was your favorite? Well, so let's think about this. And what was your favorite part?
Yeah, because I don't feel like we need to recap the whole thing. I think just getting into.
I think I just want to make it for these sort of, because we're trying to find our niche for our podcast, and some of the ideas we're throwing out there. And for this one, it's kind of like we're going to review some movies that had some really good things for the sci-fi genre, and I think Black Hole was one of them. And not only did it spearhead the whole space thing.
Well, actually, not to cut you off, but I do think it's interesting to say why we even picked this. It's like, it was an old sci-fi movie. We both knew about it, right? We'd seen the poster.
Then we had the records.
We both had the record audiobook combo as kids. So
yes.
It's like,
Fisher Price.
I remembered nothing of the plot.
I don't remember, but it was my favorite book. I remember it. I love that one. It was one of my favorites. Yeah. I had that. I remember that, and I remember.
I was always like, "Oh, this is cool. I want to be able to see that." But in the 80s, we'd have to rent a VCR from Radio Shack to be able to, or a Laserdisc player to be able to watch some of these movies.
Dude. I don't even remember that stuff like that far back. Just like Beta. No, Beta was what? Was Beta?
Beta was a rival
for VCR, right?
To VCR.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah,
so
that we never dabbled with. You never saw someone with a laser disc?
No.
I guess you're up in the county too, so
we didn't. I mean, we never really focused on that. So maybe we did movies. We rented with VCR. We watched movies on tape, but we never did laser disc or anything like that. No.
Yeah. Desperate times.
We just weren't cutting edge like some people.
I figured. Anyways, I didn't feel renting one was cutting edge. It was like, oh, we're too far to buy one. We're gonna rent it for the weekend and watch the shit out of it. It was kind of more the take on it, not like, oh, let's rent the laser disc again, darling.
Let me dab the side of my mouth with my handkerchief.
But yeah, at any rate, let's get so to say the conflict point at any rate is that Dr. Reinhardt, the quote unquote baddie,
dude, he was awesome.
He was he
was an
really
awesome
well
bad
cast.
guy. He had the crazy look and everything,
and the dark and moody. It was brilliant.
They really
casting
did a good job with that.
With Maximilian Schnell playing Hans there. And yeah, so he essentially, his plan, he had developed this anti-gravity technology that allowed him to stay there at the edge, and he believed that he could use it essentially to go into the black hole.
Yeah.
And that was, the philosophy, this idea of, the next stage, that's like they were kind of seeing going into the black hole as like going into the mind of God, as Dr. Durant said, or whatnot. And it was like the next stage in human evolution or being or whatnot.
Right. I think it was like big back then too. That sort of the black hole and all that stuff. Science.
It's something that where the science, the physics of it, were just starting to get worked out.
Yeah.
Being theorized. Ooh, I'm not sure when they first were able to visualize the effects of them. It was probably even back in the 70s.
I'm just shaking my head like, dude, I don't know.
I don't know. Could be.
But I did like this movie though.
Yeah, I'm sure Stephen Hawking was shaking his head as much as he could. But if he ever saw that, it's like, that's not how any of that works.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was definitely, that it's talking about sci-fi in general. That's one of these things I'm a little bit of a purist of. It's like, okay, I am willing to suspend my belief for sci-fi. You have to, right? It's
yeah.
Like, hey, there's this thing we don't have now, but maybe we will, or whatever. And even for fantasy. But if you keep asking your viewer to suspend their belief, like, oh, here's another thing, it takes me out of it, and I'm like, right? So, or just, if it's just bad writing, like, that doesn't make sense. So here they're on a ship, and there's asteroids going through it at one point, and they're like
this big flaming ball.
You guys would kind of be
and you know what's funny is I remember the whole flaming ball thing in the book.
Oh, that scene was in the
and I always thought when I was a kid, like, what the hell is this? And now when I watch the movie, I'm like, it was it was an asteroid.
Yeah. I don't want to get too, well, whatever. We're talking about asteroids. So talk about it. For me, that scene came out of nowhere.
And then all of a sudden, where the hell did those asteroids come from?
You're a mad genius. You're going to navigate into a black hole, but you didn't know there's asteroids there? Like, what? How does that work?
I guess they have to add drama somewhere.
Yeah, you can tell they're like,
what do we do? What do we do? Asteroids.
Asteroids in space. We can definitely do that. Let's do that. So that kind of felt, and then they're like, oh, but we can make them look cool. I'm like, yeah, they did kind of look cool.
They're like, they look like comets.
Yeah, I'm like, that's one really hot asteroid. I don't know a lot about asteroids, but
and it's going through the ship, but yet they're not being thrown out into space because of vacuum, right? Because you know how it's rolling through the ship.
Maybe his anti-grav fields help him keep the atmosphere in. It was weak. It was weak. There was a little weak. There was a lot of people in the cold vacuum of space for a very long time, and it didn't make a lot of sense. And that was mostly at the end when they
they're like climbing.
Self-admittedly, were rushing it.
And then they're climbing like a jungle gym to get to the. All this time they've been going through elevators, their ship and all that stuff. So they decided you need to take the last ship
take the probe ship out.
Yeah, the probe ship out, and they're like climbing like a jump, like I said, a jungle gym to get inside the. Like, what happened to maybe the hallways got blown up with the meteors? I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a little weird. But what do you think of the quote unquote droids, if you want to just as a quotation?
I refuse to call them droids. But
whatever you want to call
them. So I liked how it was executed
because I do have the acronyms here.
Oh, you did.
I did,
wow.
man.
I did want to look at. Oh yeah, I do see. I was like, at the very least, they did say Bob.
Yeah, Bob
is. They did say Biosanitation Battalion.
But Vincent, I'm like, who the hell is
there?
Vincent? What the hell's Vincent? And then it's like vital information necessary centralized.
Yeah, that's a stretch, but cool.
That's
shield level.
Sorry,
that's shield level acronyms right there.
Military style.
Yeah, they came up with Vincent first and filled it in afterwards.
But I like the whole. It was kind of cool because most sci-fi is just like when you're doing the telepath is with humans. Oh. And how she was like a technopath, right? I thought that was pretty cool.
The human robot ESP was like, how has that not been done since? I mean, I guess they do. It has. but they just didn't call it ESP. I don't know. That was cool.
I thought that was cool too.
Whoa, is there going to be more of this? They used it twice.
Yeah.
I could have seen it. I would like to see it done.
I would have liked to see it a few more times. Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have done it a few more times in there.
Yeah, that's like to convey.
It was a good way.
Ideas.
It was a good way to bridge the two storylines because they had opposite storylines together into one, so the crew kind of knew what the hell was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, no, the first time that they used it, the ESP made a lot of sense. It's like, there's too much radio and too much interference with the signal. Can you reach out to Vincent with ESP or whatever?
Yeah, that's when he was outside.
Like, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense, and it makes it feel like it's it's something that's even more. It's like the Force, right? It's more than just science. If it was science stuff, it would have got GM2. That's a whole nother phenomenon going on, which I like really that sci-fi. And then they use it the second time, essentially just as a communicator, right? It's just like,
we could call them bots. I think bots works. Droids, but bots.
Yeah,
because Vincent was one, and then Bob.
No, I like that they levitated instead of like ambling along. It had a better sci-fi feel to it.
What'd you think of Big Bad Maximilian? Did you like him? The big red robot.
He was cool looking, and again, I like they're like, we're gonna make this hover. We're not gonna have him shuffle around. Now the other battle bot droid things, the red ones, they look cool. You could tell that theatrics has come a long ways, and that is like, oh yeah. Since this movie, we've had 40 years of people training how to move like robots because they didn't know how to back in '79. Unless you're Anthony Daniels, I guess he had the corner market moving like a droid really well. Because the droid, I'm like, this is shuffle.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
Turn. It was just like.
Yeah, it was a little weird. But again, it's in the '79, and it was something new, right? They were trying to break grounds on it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, it's people have learned, like, hey, they look cool, but they move stupid. We need to do something better than that. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of movies have learned from Black Hole's mistakes and from what they did well, you know, because there is a lot done
I love the whole, like, hidden thing with his crew. That was cool. Like, I thought that was pretty cool how they did that.
Oh, the twist.
Yeah, the twist.
Yeah, it was a really good twist. Admittedly, I saw it coming. Sarah wasn't watching it with me, but I had to mumble it to her like, this is what's going on. I can say I'm still right later on.
Well, how many years have you been watching sci-fi, man? Come on. You've probably seen the most.
Actually, that's my dad's special talent. He'll watch any movie and you're like 40 minutes in, and you're like, he's the murderer, and that it's like he'll ruin the ending. Like, have you seen this before? He's like, nah, just know the algorithm or whatever. But so I'm used to spoiling. Maybe that's why it's such a sensitive subject for me.
Who does that? I don't know who spoils.
Yeah. Well, we are, because it's like it's
I don't want to reveal too much.
What do we want to do with Blast from the Past? Are we trying to for people that have watched it, be like, hey, I haven't thought about that movie in a while. I want to think about it again. Or we're trying to convince people like, hey, this is an old movie. You haven't seen it. You should watch it. And I do worry if we're going to reveal the twist, maybe they don't want to watch it.
I wanted a little bit of both. That's why I kind of want to leave the twist alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Because we talked about the ESP.
Yeah, because
and we're going to talk about the ending. I think we're going to talk about the ending because it's so like, wait, what? So I will say,
you got to be careful because you might reveal everything. If we
at the very beginning, I will say this: that was it the lieutenant? Yeah, Lieutenant.
The one that was like Han Solo style, like.
Yeah. He at the beginning when they saw the black hole. He made this comment. He's like, oh, hey, whenever I see one, I'm half expecting to see a little man with red horns standing next to it or something. Yeah. Like, that it's the gate to hell.
Yeah.
Or something. So I'm like, oh, that was actually really good foreshadowing with the ending that they went with, even though the whatever director producer was saying, like, we started rolling and we'd figured out the ending. It was like, we got 130 days to figure out the ending. We'll come up with something. I'm like, well, it's true.
I felt I had seen that ending like on Scrooge or something. Like, when Scrooge goes to hell type of thing. Like, it was very Faustian. We've probably seen that like 100 times. That scene over. I love that scene actually. At the end, and for Black Hole,
where you're seeing Maximilian standing there,
you know,
It was a little heavy-handed, but
it's
it
kind
just
of like
visually okay.
karma.
In terms of
It
the
was a
plot,
karma
I didn't like
scene.
it. In terms of visually stunning and looking just really cool, such a weird ending.
I liked it because it was kind of like he got karma. You know
Like
what I
she
mean?
said, you're gonna get what's
coming to you.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
there's any fairness in the world or
Just
something
fast
like
forward
that.
if you don't want to know.
Yeah, so it is again. It's like yeah, we'll always have the disclaimer. But again, that is like really you had to bring religion into it. That was kind of my
Yeah.
I didn't like about it, even though I like the depictions. Like
But it's the 70s,
and
dude. It's
like the warp tunnel through heaven or whatever when they came out on the other side, that was really cool. Like it was you could tell that they just used some pretty simple camera tricks and some mirrors.
Dude, they did a lot of things that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
like, that I thought was cool. Like you said, how the bots hovered around. I thought it was interesting.
Oh, and for I don't know why they did it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it that they had the drones competing in each other, like that little bit of personality, and that they're like, "Hey, I'm the best shot." I was like, "Well, I actually can shoot better than him, but I don't." He was
he
pissy
beat
and
me
mad
up.
after his.
That's why he was all beat up because the
Um,
what was the guy Star or something? I can't remember what the guy's name was. Anyway,
Yeah.
Star, yeah, right there, Star.
just the
Captain Star. He was the lead of the guard robots.
right. Yeah, again,
He was the black one.
Cool, yeah,
Yeah.
cool looking bot for
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It was just a weird scene, right? It didn't really add to the plot that much, other than I guess it established that Vincent and Bob were in cahoots a little bit, and that,
it
that,
kind of made that relationship like they're buddies.
because if it wasn't for Bob, they would have been sunk. They would have been done. I mean, actually, does make you wonder. Like, actually, if Bob didn't tell them what was going on, then they probably would have gotten on their ship still and watched him because they would have been freaked out, and they would have recorded him going into the black hole and all lived. Right?
Yeah,
Like, so Bob kind of ruined it for him. Like, they were gonna leave and be
Well, I like that
ignorant.
cowardly, the cowardly crew member there running away.
Harry Booth. And again, made for a nice little plot twist near the end. I thought that was nice, and again they set it up. He was always like, how about this? Let's GTFO now.
I don't think they would have made it. They would have been blasted. It would have been blasted out of the sky.
But he only did that because they figured out the truth,
Yeah, I
right?
guess.
If he went into the black hole and they just recorded him being awesome and inventing a bunch of shit,
Yeah.
then he gets his win. Like
That's
he
true,
goes
that's
down
true.
in the books as the coolest dude in all the town.
I did like there's one part where he says, help me, and they kind of don't help him. Towards the end, when he tells the empath, Kate,
right.
he's like, save me from Maximilian or something like that.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense,
Yeah, I
but would
didn't
he
get
have a
that.
moment of weakness there? Like,
Yeah.
oh man, maybe I need to leave with these guys. Was it Maximilian that was doing all the bad things on the ship, and he was just like going along with it because he wanted to be alive still? I don't know.
That was something that was interesting that I felt was really unresolved.
Yeah.
So that essentially, Maximilian was supposed to be his like cutting edge
Yeah, yeah.
robot or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was not always obeying
No.
his orders, right? And so
So you think it
That
could have
was-
been? I can't. I don't want to.
why is it? Yeah.
That's the thing. We're so close to be like, right there to spoil it.
I
We
know,
don't wanna spoil
and that's the thing. Like, were they trying to make parallels between? It's like, oh, hey, these robots are like us. They also have rivalries, and they've got opinions, and they're quoting philosophy.
Yeah,
and
dude. I
making
really thought it
quips
was like
and-
deep. It had some good points that like pointed out a few things. Like initially, Disney was just general audience, and with this particular movie, it was his first time it was PG. Like,
Yeah,
which is interesting. Like I never knew that. That's kind of cool. I thought
Yeah.
it was kind of the groundbreaking for Disney to go into this sort of route.
and to think that all of the special effects and everything they didn't go to ILM like, hey guys, nice job. We got 20 million. You want half of it?
I didn't even think it was a thing back then.
That they still use good old Disney ingenuity.
Yeah.
To
make it happen.
Yeah, to crank
instead of buying everything in the entire world that is entertainment like it is now. They own pretty much everything that's entertainment.
Yeah.
At least in our wheelhouse.
And I like to think that it paved the way for Tron, which is a fantastic movie.
Which we will be doing a Blast of Pass on for sure.
I like the idea that we did a movie that neither one of us had seen before, and it'll be interesting in the future to be like, oh, let's watch a movie that we like, Last Starfighter, that we've seen.
I was gonna pick that one.
Yeah, but it's like I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I'm like, I don't know if it holds up. And so for me, that's another thing. It's like, oh, do these movies hold up? So yeah, actually, by that criteria, does Black Hole hold up?
Hold up to this day and age?
Yeah, this day and age.
With the political sort of environment?
Yeah. I think it does.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's anything.
It does. I didn't see
anything to take offense for.
Kate she did a good job. She held her own in the scenes.
Yeah, they had a pretty strong female lead.
And she wasn't all, half dressed or anything like that. She was
obviously isn't the most diverse of cast.
Well, they had but they could have had more. But back then, that's the only thing that's holding it up is diversity.
Yeah, but there wasn't. I can't think of anything that was like super sexist, but any of the comments.
I don't remember seeing anything like that either. The beauty of it is, it was like just to entertain, right? Just to entertain.
Well, and again, good sci-fi should do a little bit more than that.
But this one did,
and have you take a hard look, at the problems of our own culture and how we've been interacting with technology. Maybe it was a little bit there in how they depicted the robots, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't think anything with the robots and their personalities. I don't think they're trying to do anything deep there. I would just like, robots that are friendly and fun are gonna make better toys for kids to buy. I really think it was about as deep as that. But that's okay, right? If we can if we can find something in that show, it's deeper than they ever intended. It's still real.
Well, I think most people that are kind of in the crowd that we're in here with our podcast would probably have that sort of initial feel that we did when we watched it. With how you especially the ending. The ending is kind of like, oh my, why is this ending here? And then you start thinking about the ending and how it adds up to the rest of it that we don't want to spoil too much on. Then you're like, oh yeah, that is like a karma thing. Like,
no, for anyone that's like, hey, I'm really interested in getting like a sci-fi history lesson, I'd be like, definitely watch Black Hole.
Oh yeah,
definitely watch it.
Definitely.
If you've got limited time and you want to watch the best of the best sci-fi, no, I would not recommend it.
No.
I wouldn't.
But hey, if it's raining out or it's a snowstorm where
was it entertaining? Yes. Do I regret watching it? No. I'm definitely glad that we did.
Yeah, it was
thought-provoking, and like I said, it was a history lesson to some extent.
Definitely, it's definitely one of those that propelled us forward to what it is today.
So, what did you think of the ships in general? Just general,
The ships were definitely like the old '60s type of like. Remember Lost in Space, the series, like that sort of style. But I kind of liked was the Cygnus? Is that what the big one was called? I kind of liked the look of that and the way.
Yeah, the Cygnus I thought was really cool. The Palomino or whatever is kind of.
And I like how they approached it with they had the lighting on the ship and kind of like Alien, where the team approaches the ship. It's like it's all like the lights you could see. Then it gives you like, wow, this ship is massive, right?
Yeah.
It gives you that feel
and I like that it was kind of transparent and then it like whole lit up and it went for more of like a
then they're like, hey, there's people in there, and I'm like, where? I can't see anybody move
Oh,
around.
I love it, like enhanced image, and it's still blurrier,
Yeah, like-
blurrier than anything that we would ever create by
Like,
today's standards.
What?
But
Where? But they could have just said, "Hey," Kate could have said, "I detect thoughts" or whatever.
honestly, other than like the asteroids, there were no special effects that I'm just like, groan. This is real bad. Okay, the asteroid inside the ship and them running, yeah, that's classic. That's awesome. If they reboot it, they have to recreate that scene. But there, you're seeing like it was just, you can tell it was rushed, and it's like, why are they glowing? It's probably there was a technical reason, like, they'll stand out more if they're glowing. If we make them white, it's gonna clip and look weird.
Yeah, like I said,
I'm sure there's some technical reason.
When they were,
and then there's there are asteroids that are like passing through the ship just by mistake, just because it's bad editing, not because but a lot of the other effects, like the robots, there's a couple of times it's a little clunky, but for the most part it looks really fluid and it's believable.
It was pretty fluid.
It's believable. And again, it's just spend some of that 20 million should have been spent on like a physicist to do a little bit of science consulting. Because correct me if I'm wrong, if you're say you're on the outside of a spaceship and you screw up and you push yourself off and you're floating away from the spaceship.
Well, first
you get a grappling gun and you shoot your grappling gun towards the spaceship,
you're going to be shooting out.
You're just shooting yourself further away, right? So I'm like, that had me worried, because there was a scene, something like that in the first like 20 minutes. I'm like, ooh, is it going to be full of just, we've never thought of what it's like to be in space. We're just going to
don't worry about these little things. Just focus on this main story.
Yeah. And again, I already said something like that. You do it enough times, I'm like, I'm out. I don't believe in your world anymore.
I don't think it did it that many times, though. I think that was that
it was
one.
Okay.
Yeah, that one scene, and then the other scene where they're in the gardens.
They're like,
it's snowing now, and I was like,
that's okay. I could be like, oh, big loss of pressure, right?
Yeah.
Things are gonna get cold.
Yeah,
like that almost makes sense. Oh, you didn't get sucked out because of
that was my short circuiting moment. Was
well, no, when the asteroid's coming in, it looks so cool, but like you guys are all dead.
Why are you not like being sucked out right now?
They were though. They were fighting it, and whatever.
Dude,
but
yeah, I guess.
And to go back to the robots part, for me, I'm like, I was gonna say any reason to watch it is because of the robots.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
They really did a good job with the robots.
Better things.
I think they kind of wanted to be like Star Wars with C-3PO and R2D2. They were a pivotal point in the movie, so they wanted to kind of have the, hey, we have bots too.
Right.
Again, and the cool thing is like they totally went like opposite, because they were levitating, right? They were just levitating,
right? Which I'm sure, like when it came time to make toys, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, we screwed up here."
They did have toys for those, by the way.
Yeah, but did they levitate? They must have.
No,
been,
they didn't
really,
levitate, dude. We're in the. You gotta
saying,
use the imagination helicopter to do that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Lucas knew what he was doing. Like, we're putting legs on our droids so we can sell them as toys that kids can play with and stand around.
Well, they did. Like I said, they did have black hole toys too. So
yeah, I gotta look them up on eBay just to see what they look like or whatnot. Well, cool. Yeah.
Anything else?
So there's the effects. I mean, the plot. I like to think is like, does it hold up by today's standards? So the pacing, like you said, some of the early scenes is definitely slow by today's standards.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing of the overall plot, for an hour 40-minute movie, which back in the 70s was kind of long, right? For Disney, that's kind of long.
Yeah, it was.
Time.
Yeah.
I thought the overall pacing was good. The individual scenes, the pacing could be a little bit slower, but at times slow, but it didn't bother me. I thought I was never like, on with it.
Yeah.
Some of the
I had a few moments that I was like that, but that's just me. I'm not the most patient.
Yeah, and maybe some of the dialogue felt a little old at points. Or
to go back to the effects, they did get nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Effect and Best Cinematography, which they really did a good job on, I think. Just like you said, the effects were good. The story, was there were some few slow parts, but again, it's the 70s, so it's not hey, we need to make this money back and then some, so we're going to pile it on. No, they had a certain budget. They're going to stay close to it as possible, and hopefully they get a good return. They took a chance, and I think they did a good job. I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. So watch it for the robots. Just be prepared for a mediocre ending, or maybe you liked it, right? I mean,
I think the ending is good.
It was a visually stunning.
Like I said, it's ending. A karma ending.
And it could have been worse. It could have been worse, right?
I want to say it's like it's the ship that's left. Like I want to say without spoiling it, right? Because they go through the black hole, so obviously the ship gets broken up because of the black hole and the meteors. So I want to say that
the probe ship.
No, the Ignis.
Oh, Cygnus is done. Cygnus is done for.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's somewhere in the black hole, and it's in rubble, and that's how it ends. That's where the ending comes. That's in my brain. That's what it is. I don't want to spoil it too much. Why?
Oh,
but I think
I take it as he becomes the literal devil. He becomes literal Satan going through the black hole. Yeah, and it's that whole because he did actually have some noble goals. Okay, he was egocentric. He was doing it mostly for him, but he was still trying to explore in the name of humankind.
Yeah, I mean, so he had some good points. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, man.
I
was like, hey, shit, that's some good points there.
Though.
Till you find out what the hell he was doing, and you're like, "Oh shit, this isn't right."
Ends don't justify the means anymore. Now that we know the full story, so that's how I took it. And then, or that the black hole does. I like your take on it. The black hole was the judgment.
Yeah.
And so he was judged to go to hell, and they were given a pass.
I'd be interested to see like what people think about it. If they watch it, just let us know, hey, how you feel about it. We'll put a little thing there. At some point, we'll have some forums. You guys can be like, hey, yeah, that's how I felt too. It'd be nice, interesting to see.
Actually,
the conversation points.
I'm interested in people that have watched it, in the 70s or early 80s, and what they like. Whoa, what how
these guys they got it all wrong.
Right? Yeah. It's been known to happen.
Being more so than anybody else. But anyway, do you have anything else you want to add? I don't see anything else. That's our blast from the past. We want to go check out some movies that are that we grew up with, or people in the same wheelhouse as us, grown up with. We would assume, and kind of give our take on it, right?
Yeah. So I guess that's concluding this episode of the Crowded Space Podcast.
Well, hey, thank you for listening to us. And, we hope that you enjoyed this segment of our Blast from the Past, Disney's Black Hole on Disney+.
And remember,
not the destination, it's the journey.
That's nice. Soundtrack.